let you down. With each breath we give away, it'll never be the same. I'm chasing somebody who won't ever ease the pain, but I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart. Of your heart.
welcome to the live stream. Let me cut down the music. And flip over. Hi everyone, welcome to the live stream. We're on system build 37. My name is Brian, I'm from Boot Once, and this is a Build It with Brian series. So we're up to number 37. This system is going to be a TrueNAS system. So I may have to show you guys how to make the USB floppy disk, USB flash drive, so that you guys can actually create this on your own and show you guys how to load up everything from start to finish. I'm going to go through all the hardware build first, and then we're going to go to the software, obviously, because we need the system in order to load the software. Okay, 2K Gaming Yard, you said something in a different language. I'm sorry, I only speak English, so I don't know what that means. It looks like Google Translate said it was Hindi, so I try to write English so I know what it means. So maybe if you know it, hopefully you do. All right, let's get into the build. Let's take a look at the parts. Let me just rearrange things around here a little bit so we're a little better. There we go. Wow. All right. So all the parts that you're going to need for this system build, if you want to follow along, are also in the description below, by the way. There may be just one or two things missing from that description. The things that are going to be just missing are going to probably be the Comet device, the GL iNet Comet device. This is basically for like lights out operations. So we're going to also put that in here as well as part of the build so that we have lights out features just in case we need to access the server when it's down. A few things that we are going over here. We got a motherboard itself. The motherboard is a B760M AYM Wi-Fi D42. That is a mouthful. It is an ASUS motherboard. Memory, we have a 32 gigabyte RAM kit. We have two different drives going on here. This is going to be the thing that's a little different. We have a 500 gigabyte drive for the primary OS, and we have a 1 terabyte drive for the actual data that it's going to be stored on. I did look at cheaper options for the smaller OS drive. They really don't exist at this point. They're about the same price, so even with a smaller amount, we have a little more space, just a little bit more available to the OS. Processor, we're using an Intel Core i3 because this is a NAS. Doesn't need anything more than that. It's an i3 12100. It's still an LGA 1700 socket. Power supply, we're using a simple Thermaltake Smart 700 watt power supply. It is quiet. It is got a 5-year warranty. It's an okay device for mostly everything. This doesn't excuse the fact of like having a good UPS battery or good power filtering. This is just good enough to get past what you need to get past. I probably wouldn't recommend a graphic card with this type of power supply. You would need something a little more beefier. All right, case that we have, which is off screen, which is down below over here. That case is a DIY-S05-BK, just stands for black. It's a very simple case. It comes with 3 fans. It's nice looking, so that's kind of why we chose it. It is very simple looking case. There's nothing really fancy about it, but it's inexpensive. It has places for more additional hard drives if we need more additional hard drives, more space, more SATA drives, more SSD spots. Also, it gives you the availability of having more PCI-Express lanes available to the system. So in other words, you can put more into your card slots. All right, let's start the build. Let's move all this stuff kind of around. Let's get the power supply out of here for right now. That's not needed. We're going to start with the motherboard. Let me straighten this a little bit. This is not straight. Probably driving you guys nuts. That's better. All right, not like this really matters. Okay, so let's get into the motherboard. Let's open it up. A few tools you're going to need, obviously a small knife, screwdriver. I have an electric one. You're also going to need some sort of clipping tool for clipping out the wire, cable ties. Let's get into that. What the motherboard comes with is obviously a Wi-Fi antenna. We're not going to be using Wi-Fi. We're going to be using Ethernet, but it's good as a backup just in case something goes wrong with the Ethernet, which is weird, but does happen. Motherboard itself, let's take that out for a second. And what else? We got some extra cables, dreaded I/O shields. Looks like some standoffs for the M.2 drives, a manual, which we're not going to use today, and some sort of, what is that, warranty probably? Web storage. Okay, I don't know. It's something new probably. Who cares? That's not really necessary. All right, so that's it. We're going to build right on top of the box. Okay, I/O shield we're going to put away for later. SATA cable, same thing. Well, we might need this. Motherboard. I'm going to take this out of its lovely wrapper. Okay. So the motherboard's pretty nice. It's got basically a little cap cover here that kind of protects everything. Probably keeps a little of the heat going that direction, or cold and heat going that direction. This board actually has pretty decent features. We do have two NVMe sockets, so we can actually fit two drives in here. We're going to have one for the actual booting drive and one for the data drive. Regular chipsets, nothing really exciting, very simple. Only two PCI-Express lanes extra compared to the one for the graphic card if you have a graphic card. This is not a graphic card build, this is just onboard graphics. There's no need for it. The reason why it's not needed is because this is a NAS, so network attached storage device, so it's not going to really need a lot of high-end graphics for that to work. A few other things around the motherboard that are just going to be pointed out before we get too close is that everything with the front panel headers are going to be down here. They are labeled. It's kind of hard to see the label. If you guys can see, it is labeled like hard drive, reset, you know, power, whatever. They're also labeled positive and negative so that you can know that which way they're supposed to be plugged in. Only the LEDs make a difference on which way you plug them in. So if you get it wrong and it's not lighting up, you just flip it over. You have it the wrong way. USB, there's USB 2.0 headers as well as some chassis fan options, regular, you know, powered fan, audio, front audio. Communication, which we're not using. We're not using any of these other ones pretty much, but you know, they're there if you actually have all those extra features. USB 3.1 header. Yeah, it's a 3.1 header. And then power, obviously, for your motherboard. Another fan power for your CPU. Power for your motherboard, your 8-pin, which is your 12-volt rail. And you do have some, I think these are lighting effects. So you have lighting plugins if you have lights, you know, RGB lights. We're not doing anything with RGB, so it's going to be very plain build. Just to go around the board, also your RAM sockets, your CPU socket is here, RAM socket's there. I usually open up the RAM sockets just so they're open and ready to go. They don't open on this side, they only open one side. And let's get building. Let's put the CPU in first, just to get that out of the way. To open it up, just push down, flip up, flip out this way, the actual socket itself. Check the socket, make sure there is no damage to the socket, which I do not see any pins that are damaged. It looks pretty good. The pins are down located here. I'm not going to get too close because you don't want to put dirt or dust or anything in there, or you don't want to touch it and accidentally bend the pin. So we're going to open up the CPU box. In the CPU box, what you get is obviously the CPU itself in a little plastic clamshell. Put that out. Protect it. Put that over to the side. It also comes with a heatsink and fan. And a little stupid manual with a sticker if you want that. We'll take this up. It also comes with pre-applied thermal paste. You can use the pre-applied thermal paste if you want, or if you want, you can also wipe this off with isopropyl alcohol and get rid of that and then put on your own thermal paste if you don't like the thermal paste that comes with this. I'm going to leave that there because it's still good and it's fine for this case. We're going to take the processor itself and carefully, very carefully, and not destroy anything, take it out of its clamshell. Check that on here, you're going to see that there's a little arrow. That arrow is going to match the arrow that's on the motherboard, which is the bottom left corner. It's on the case cover. You're going to drop it into the socket, and by drop it, you're not going to drop it very far. You're just going to place it, I guess, is more of a better word for that. There are some notches, so make sure that everything fits within those notches. So there are some notches around the entire socket. Make sure that that fits. It should fit gently. There should be no pressure here. You shouldn't have to force it in. It should be very easy to put in. Now on top of that, what you're going to do is you're going to put this down, and then the protective cover is going to pop off. When you go to push that down, pop the cover off. The cover I would recommend holding on to just in case your motherboard is bad. You'll need to ship it back with this in place so you can get full warranty. All right, next what we want to do is we're going to put the heatsink and fan, connect that on. I usually like to align it so that the power cord matches to where the power cord is going to need to be plugged in, which is on this side. So we're just going to do that. We're going to line up these little stand-ups into the holes and make sure that they go in. Before we push down, just give it a little jiggle. There we go. Then what you want to do is opposite corners. Push in, you should hear a click. And they should be all clicked in. Once they're all clicked in, turn the motherboard upside down and double check to make sure that all of the pins are popping through, the little plastic stand-ups are popping through, and that they are connected all the way down. That means you have a fully good seated fan. You can flip it back over. And you can plug the CPU fan into the one that says CPU fan on the motherboard. It's a 4-pin connector. It only fits one way. It's also keyed only one way, so it should only fit one way. Let's do RAM next. RAM is pretty simple. We got a DDR4 kit. There is DDR5 out. This machine doesn't need it right now, so we're just using DDR4 memory. The motherboard also only supports DDR4, so that's the way we're going. All of these Vengeance memory come with stupid little plastic pieces on here. Just try to peel that garbage off. And then you got to take your RAM. It is notched in the middle. That notch is going to line up to the notch on the motherboard. When you go to put it into the socket, make sure it's lined up, push in, and it should click in. Only one is going to pop in. The other one is a standoff. That's just a straight, straight pressure connector. You don't need to do anything with it. Repeat the same process. Just take the plastic off, line up the notch, and push in all the way down. Once it's popped in, I'm going to just do a little bit of cable management here and just push this stupid CPU fan cable out of my way. Just going to push it between the RAM. Just to get it out of the way. Get in there. Probably not the best idea to use the knife, but I'm using the back part of the knife, so there we go. All right. Garbage, get this out of the way. Boxes. Let's do a quick cleanup before we start moving on. I'm going to move on to the hard drives. So we got 2 hard drives. We got a 500 gig and a 1 terabyte. Now, they're both NVMe Gen 4s, so I don't think it's going to make much of a difference which one we plug it into, but let me double check the board and see what it says. Yeah, so it says right on the board M2 version 1 socket. So the top socket here is Gen 4x4, and the other one is also the same thing, Gen 4x4. So it really doesn't matter which one you plug it into, these 2 drives. Now, if you had a more advanced motherboard that has like Gen 5 and you have a Gen 5 drive, you would plug the Gen 5 drive into the Gen 5 socket. This is kind of common sense, but just in case it's not common sense, you want to do that. You want to make sure on the motherboard manual which one is Gen 4, which one's Gen 5, if you have that. In this case, both of them are Gen 4x4, so it really doesn't matter. So we can probably put the 500 gig here and the 1 terabyte down here. just to keep it simple. Where's my screws? Oop, whoa, almost sliding off. Did I totally? I'm always losing these stupid screws. I think I just put them in here accidentally into the garbage, did I? Or they fell on the floor? Nope. Did I pick it up? Yes, I threw them in the garbage. Do not throw your screws into the garbage. You're gonna need those. So here are the nuts and the screws that we need to basically put in the drives. Just gonna open that up really quick. These are very small screws, so be sure not to lose them. Even smaller than my hands here. Okay, so if you look really closely here, these are the standoffs that you need to put in and the screws for the NVMe drives. So we're just going to take these carefully. Where did I put my... All right, it's over on the other side of the room. Forget it. Just going to put these on the table. If you have a magnetic tray, you really should use that. So to get these screwed in, my hands are way too small, so I'm going to use a screwdriver for that. But you don't have to. You could use almost anything. Just going to use a little nut driver here just to get that in there. There we go. This one fits. So I'm just going to take the nut driver with a screw in it and just put it onto the board. And repeat the same step for the second drive. Just going to screw it into where it belongs. There's only one spot it goes into. It's usually in alignment with the socket. So if your socket, can't see that. If your socket is here, then the standoff would be on the opposite side of it. It's on this side, same thing. Socket here, standoff is on this side. Just gonna make sure it's down, which it is. Okay. I'm gonna keep the small screwdriver out because I'm gonna probably need Phillips, probably. Yeah, it's Phillips. Phillips, probably 0? Yeah, 00. 00. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that over there. Let's get the drive out. This is the 500 gigs, so we're just gonna put that in the main primary socket above the PCI-Express socket, the big one for the graphic card. Okay, they really don't give you much anymore. It's just this little manual. No one needs a manual. All right, case cover is just a little plastic. Just open that. Drive itself, it looks like a stick of gum, basically, if you're really into gum. Drive's not that big. It's a Crucial P310. Obviously, this is the side that goes into the socket. You're going to put that onto a 45-degree angle and then push in. So, and then you're going to basically screw in on this side the actual screw to hold it down. So we're going to do that now. We're just going to go down to the board. We're going to basically throw this at like a 45 here almost to the board, then slide that in, and then now you can push this down and then screw it in. Captain Jack Sparrow, of course. Give away this PC. Yeah, well, I would expect nothing less than that from a person that's labeled Captain Jack Sparrow, right? No, we're not giving away any PCs. We don't do that. We don't do giveaways. Sorry. Hopefully that's not the only reason why you came to visit the channel. Hopefully you're coming to learn something. All right, so that's in there. 1 terabyte drive. We're just gonna open that up. Hopefully without cutting myself. Here we go. All right. All right. Love my videos. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. Oh, so the drive, same thing, just more plastic. It comes with a little screw, so just in case you lose the other screw, you can use the one that's for replacement. We're not going to do that. Just going to put it off to the side. We'll have an extra screw. This is a Crucial P3 Plus 1 terabyte drive. Again, PCI-Express 4 and by 4 channels. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat the same process. We're going to go out of 45. We're going to go into the socket, Make sure it's all the way down, and then we're going to put that screw that I just almost lost. There we go. These screws are really small. Always have a screw tray. I should probably bring my screw tray over. I'm just being lazy and I don't want to go get it. That's what it really is. All right, so let's put this down, and then we're going to screw this in carefully. And when you screw these in, they should be parallel to the motherboard, so you should have a little space. You can see that. Oops, there's a little bit of a space between that and the motherboard. That's okay, that's where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be flat kind of with the motherboard and the same parallel, but it's not actually flat with the board. It's flat with the socket. So, all right, that's all you need to do for this portion. So we're gonna now move into the case. So let's clean up a little more, because we always are doing cleanup. Make sure to just throw out stuff that you're not supposed to be sitting in front of you. Just all the plastics. We don't need this screw. And I'm just gonna get rid of this for now. All the other accessories, just keep them on the side so you have them ready to go. Manual, I'm not gonna use the manual, so ditch that. It's not really a manual. I think it's really about the warranty on there. So close the knife. I don't need this screwdriver anymore. Put that away. Okay. All right, so we're ready for the case. So I'm going to take this motherboard and move it off to the side. And we're going to work on the case next. So it's going to be a little bit crushed over here. Also, I'm going to get the power supply ready over here on the side. And we're going to also put the case up. Oh. Actually, this case is not that heavy. I'm over-exaggerating. All right, top part of the case. Just let me go over the few ports that we got on top, which... There's a hair in there. Why is there a hair in there? Really? Okay. Anyway. All right, cool. So on the top, got a few ports. First of all, there's no USB 3.0 extra port here, which is weird that they don't give you that. But then again, this case is very inexpensive, so that's probably the reason why there's a hair here that's driving me nuts. All right. USB 3, there is one USB 3.0 and a USB 2.0. And down further, we have the microphone jack, headphone jack, if you're brave enough to use these things. Kind of horrible sounding. USB 2.0, another one, and we have another reset button and a power switch. Oh, we also have lights, hard drive light and power light? Power light, yeah. It's power, hard drive. That's it for that. There's not really much more on the case portion here. I mean, it does have a little bit of breathable room in the front. This is a very light case. Sorry for the view right now. I'm just going to take the panels off. Captain Jack says, which PC component you like to put while building system that feels like satisfying PC component to put in? Okay. That's a hard one to say. I would say RAM is usually very satisfying because of the click sound. I like the click sound of that. I also know that if I have more RAM, I feel better about myself at the end of the day, because at least this way, like, more stuff can run. You know, I don't like to close programs a lot either, so, you know, that's just knowing that I'm going to have a lot more RAM kind of makes me feel better about it. But I do like the satisfying click of the RAM when going in. Honestly, that's one of my satisfying ones. By the way, this case is really, really light. Without the side panels, it's like, I don't know, like a pound. You know what I mean? I don't know what that is in any other measurement, but it's about a pound. It's also a little flimsy. It's but this is a very inexpensive case, so let's not, I'm probably being a little bit too judgmental here. I don't care much for, I know a lot of people care for cases, and I always put in the description a lot of these cases. That's because a lot of people want to see how the build goes with that case. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of any case specifically, because when I build them, I usually am building them and I have to maintain them once in a while, so it's not so bad. I like putting in the GPU while building it. Feels like heaven. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the GPU, well, if it's on my build, yes. I guess putting the GPU, it makes me feel better a little bit. except for the fact of how much I probably spent on that GPU. It depends, especially if it's NVIDIA right now. NVIDIA is pretty overpriced. For what it is, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, they have good performance, but there's a lot of issues with how expensive something, how MSRP is nowhere near MSRP anymore. So the same thing with AMD a little bit, not as bad, but yeah, I don't mind putting the GPU in it either. That's not bad. Yeah, you know, I guess the feeling of knowing like you could play all these other new games, or maybe do you know, or maybe do more work if you're building it for work. Why is this cable? What did they do here? Fan cables, man. Every time I go into a case, it's like a new explanatory visit on what they do with fan cables. Okay, so they got this all tied together. That's not what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna unplug this. We're gonna use this separately. I don't like having this all daisy chained one direction. That's just weird. We're gonna go that way. These cables can go that way, but the other ones no. The one for the beer case fan is gonna be easier to plug into something that's closer to the bottom part of the motherboard. The other ones don't really matter too much. You can probably plug them in anywhere. But having the wire go up and across your power supply is kind of weird. So we're just gonna avoid that. Let's put in the power supply. Power supply. All right, so again, this is the Thermaltake Smart 700. If you're going with a graphic card, I probably wouldn't recommend this power supply. I'd probably recommend a little bit higher end power supply. This is only an 80 plus. You probably want like an 80 plus bronze at least, at the very least, if you have a graphic card. Just so your power bill isn't like really through the roof when you gotta just push your graphic card for a little bit of time, you know? By the way, the 80 plus only means that at 80% usage, you start to save power. But that's usually the most expensive time to really be spending a lot of money anyway, you know, on power. So basically what's coming in the package, I forget to show you what's coming in the package. Power cord itself, let's go off to the side, I'm gonna use that later. Manuals, which we don't need, we're good on that. Throw that over there. Manuals, get out of there. Okay, so what else comes with it? Some silicone gel, which, you know, don't eat that. Garbage, all right. And let's take this out. This power supply is not modular, so all the cables are connected to the power supply. This is one of the easier power supplies to install, so you don't have to worry about losing your cables. But unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of cable management, as you can tell, because there's a lot of cables here. Now, a few little things that you want to look at with your power supply is your actual 12-volt rail number, which in this case is actually 700, but sometimes this number is a little lower. And that will be your max 12-volt power to your 12-volt rails. So, you know, for like a graphic card or for your motherboard and stuff like that, that's the maximum amount of power it can pull at once. To find out what type of power supply you need to add a few things together. You need to add your graphic card as well as your motherboard processor, your max TDP if you're motherboard processor, your max power draw for your graphic card. You want to make sure you're a little bit above whatever that is. So if you're unsure, just go for the biggest power supply you can get, and then get something with an 80 plus bronze rating. Every time I don't know why I was putting CPU and mistakenly I just dropped it. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, that's not good. Yeah, now if it's damaged, that's not good. I mean, you could try, if it's actually really damaged, I would probably, I would try to RMA it. You could try to RMA with Intel or AMD or whoever, and see if you can get another one, but you know, the minute they see physical damage, they may not warranty it. All right, let's cut off the stupid little cable tie here. let's put this in. Basically, power supply, for this case, the fan is going down towards the inside of the case. The sticker is facing up, happens to be. And you're gonna pop that right into the top piece up here. It should have came with screws. Did I miss the screws? Or is it with the power cord? That's with the power cord. All right, so in the power cord there are some cable ties and some screws. We're gonna use those. Power cord itself, I'm just gonna leave the power cord back in its bag so we have that and I don't forget to give that to the customer. Cable ties they give you are very long, they're very nice, so we're gonna use those. We're gonna put them off to the side. We just dropped a screw. Got 4 black screws. We're just gonna screw that into the back part of the case, screw in the power supply. So we're just gonna turn the case a little bit towards me. There's only 4 screws and they only line up to 4 holes. If you're unsure about which one it is, screw them in and then try to lift it up, and if it falls out, you know you got the wrong ones. No, I'm just kidding. It should be the only one. There should be only 4 that you can screw into. Standard Phillips screwdriver, nothing very fancy. That's all you probably will need for this entire build, except for the small little screwdriver I used for the hard drives on the motherboard. After you get that screwed in, which I'm just going to show you really quickly where those screws are. There they are, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which this is a little blurry, sorry, 3 and 4. Turn this back. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of organization here. Let's just get wires out of my way. So we're just gonna take all these wires, just kind of throw them out of my way for right now. We are gonna run them in certain areas, so we will make that look a little nicer. But for now purposes, we need to get down to the bottom part of the board. And I just that there we go, okay. So to get that down there, we need to do the I/O shield first because I always forget it. And guess what happens? Brian builds an entire computer without an I/O shield. Everybody sits there and laughs at me because they all know that I'm gonna have to take it all apart to put the I/O shield back in. Yes, that is really annoying and I have forgotten it billions of times. So we're not gonna do that today. On the I/O shield itself, it is labeled. We have USB, we have HDMI, you have more USB, 2.5 gigabit network card, which is good, Wi-Fi 6, which is the antennas, as well as some audio. What are we going to be using off of this? Probably just the USB, maybe the 2.5 gigabit per second networking, HDMI, that's about it. We're not using the Wi-Fi. We're definitely not going to be using audio. We're going to take this and line this up. It's basically the lettering goes down towards the bottom of the case, flips up, and then pops in. So that's going to only go in one spot, which is the spot designated for the I/O shields, which is fighting me. Why are you fighting me? There we go. Okay, there we go. Got it. Now this case is a little bit cheap on the metal. So when you go to push in, have your finger on the back part of the case so it doesn't bend the metal. So you can pop it in because it is a little flimsy in the back. So if it's flimsy, you don't want it to bend. You want it to just kind of push in. You need some sort of resistance against that. All right, so motherboard, we're gonna put the motherboard in. All right. Just gonna figure out which holes we're gonna use. We're gonna use obviously all of these, but we're also gonna use the one that's lower and the one in the bottom left corner here. So we're gonna need to add some more standoffs, which should have came with the case somewhere. Oh, here it is. Comes with a package of screws. Very difficult to open. You know what? I'm just not going to open it. I'm just going to rip it. Why are we wasting our time? All right, so comes with some standoffs. We have also some screws that I just dropped. We'll put those over there. Gonna take we don't need the speaker. Just gonna toss that. If you want to connect the speaker, you can. I hate the beeping noises that it makes, so we try not to do that. Some more screws. These are the little gold standoffs. We're going to add those two to the spot that we need, which is basically lining up with the motherboard. If you're unsure, you can look, there is a reference here down here, which is kind of hard to see, but it is labeled ATX, Micro ATX, and Mini ATX. So, you know, you can go with that, but I would just recommend looking at the motherboard and seeing where the holes line up and going by that. Just, I wouldn't trust the bottom pieces just in case something is wrong. All right, they're in nicely. Gotta check which screw actually fits into this thing. I'm just gonna double check because since this is a new case, I'm not sure which one is which, so I'm just gonna screw this in and see if this is the motherboard or not. Wow, this is not staying. My hand is not doing well. There we go. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, so to just I just did that. All right. I just took the standoff out accidentally. Didn't mean to do that. So those aren't really pushed in all the way, which they should be from the factory, and they're not. And welcome to my world of aggravation. Oh well, let me just get it back in. Just back in. And then I gotta do a little hold down. Oh, all right, so this was a good test. First of all, those standoffs kept coming out, so you should not be doing that, so I'm gonna have to tighten them manually. But anyways, this is the type of screw we're gonna be using for that standoff, which is just a very thin type screw, Phillips. Kind of like a floppy screw or CD-ROM screw. Very thin. I don't want to get into the numbers because honestly they're not labeled anyway. Let's get this down a little more. I'm going to use another. Let's use one of these. Yeah, that's okay. So I'm going to just use a little nut driver here and just drive these down a little bit harder because they are not down and not tightened, and we don't want the motherboard lifting with the standoff. You want the standoff to stay down to the board. So if we tighten down, we don't want to have to worry about, you know, this one was really loose. There we go. Okay, all tightened. They should be tightened from the factory, but you know, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. All right, screws. We're just going to use this screw tray since we have this out. It's not magnetic, but it's okay. Just as good. So just going to take all the screws out from the bag without dropping any. Come on. Oh, that plastic is really on there. All right. Here we go. All right, so let's get the motherboard in. And let's put the motherboard in. We're going to just position it really quickly. Make sure it goes through the I/O shield. You know, all the ports are showing on the I/O shield correctly. Let's get that underneath. And of course, I'm too far. I'm too far one direction, so there we go. Okay, so all the ports on the back, and what I'm checking on the back is to make sure I can see all the ports. They're all lined up correctly, and they're all pushed in. And now we can actually screw the motherboard down. By the way, you should have taken note of how many screw standoffs you have. Count the amount of standoffs, count the amount of screws that you're putting in, just to be sure that you are putting the right amount. And if they don't match, then take the board out because you obviously have a standoff somewhere it's not supposed to be, or you're missing a standoff somewhere. Okay. Why are these screws so hard? Okay, this thinner one. By the way, there's two different types of screws on this case. There's a thicker screw and a thinner one. You want the thinner one for this. They are hard to really tell apart because they're all black. Let me put up, you know, let me put two of them together so you guys can see the difference. That's not one. Of course, I grabbed two of the same. So here we go. This is why it's a little confusing. If you look at this, that's the thickness of that one and that one. So this is the one for the motherboard actually. This is for some other device, maybe a hard drive or something like that. This is for, you know, obviously the board itself. So they are a very thin difference, so you'll want to use the proper one. If you're screwing this in and it's giving you like fighting, you don't push. You're better off just backing it out. You probably got the wrong one. All right. So just repeating the process over and over again until you get all the screws in there. I think there's one more in the corner. There's always one. Yeah, there's one in the corner I'm missing. Okay. Way up in the corner by the power plug here. Which, of course, I got one that's bad. You know, the cheaper the case, the cheaper the screws you get. These are horrible. That's the negative about this stuff is that when you choose a very inexpensive case, the screws that they give you are sometimes not that great. And they don't hold on to the screwdriver, or they hold on too closely, or they have black filament on it from the paint that was just dried wrong, and then it won't fit because it's a Phillips, so it doesn't grip correctly. That happens a lot. It just, you know, just expect it. Now, with this case, it came with 3 fans for free. I say for free, but it just comes included. There's 1 fan here. There's 2 more fans in the front here. We're going to plug in, obviously, the rear fan towards a fan connector that is closest, which happens to be all the way down below. Of course. Is there another hole up here? The only hole is up there. Wow. Okay. Oh no, there's a chassis fan here. So we'll go across this way. I don't want to go all the way down to the bottom of the board. Now these fans are relatively inexpensive. They are a 3-pin instead of 4-pin. They do have little plastic slides to kind of help guide you on how to plug it in. It's only 3 pins, not 4. So you want to go to the 3 pins that are on the side of the jack. It should slide over and match on the chassis fan connector. So plug that in. We're obviously going to tie that up. We're not going to leave it that way. And we can start doing some cable management and start plugging things in, doing a little bit of cable management, getting a little more organized. This is not the best case in the world for cable management. There's a lot of like weird holes that do not match up with where it's supposed to go. So I'm just going to make the best of it. Let's just make the best of it. Let's just try our best to cable manage this mess. It doesn't have a glass panel. It has a metal side panel. So no one's really going to see this except for you. So if you want to cheat a little and you don't want to make, you know, if you don't want to like spend hours on cable management, you really don't have to here. It's just, I like to make it a little neater because we have to actually maintain these units. And when we go to maintain it, it needs to be maintainable to the point that we can actually maintain it without making a mess, you know. I don't know if this is the best way to go. Why do I feel like I should go the other way? I know it's longer to go this way, but then there's more cable. Wow, that literally is this long, so we can actually go up and around and then back in and then over to here. That's a lot of work, but I don't know if it's worth all that hassle. There's nothing better. Unless I want to go downwards. But if I go downwards, then I'm going across PCI-Express slots, which I don't want to block. I'd rather go up. Okay, so anyways, let's get that out of the way. Let's go the right way. Let's go back through the back part of the case here, then around, and then back in. I'm going to show you guys in a second. Let me just get it lined up. There we go. So what I did was, instead, I went back out through this hole up here, back in through this hole here, and then I'm going directly to this chassis plug for the fan here, which I think is a little bit of extra work, but it does keep the fan plug out of the way. Why do I try to plug in all the fans to certain connectors? Even without the 4-pin, the 3-pin can throttle a certain amount of power to give to the fan. So if you want to make your fans the most quietest that they possibly can make them, of course a 4-pin would be the best choice because you get the most amount of control out of it. But since we only have 3-pin, if you connect them all to the same 3-pin connector, that means they're giving all the same power. So if, let's say, this CPU gets a little warm, it's going to give power to all the fans at equal amounts. So you may have 100% fan usage for 3 fans that may not need 100% usage. So you're going to get that ramp up and then ramp down, ramp up, then ramp down of a lot of like fan noise that you're going to get, which is going to ramp up, ramp down, ramp up, ramp down. That noise can drive someone nuts. Especially if you're in an office that's quiet, you will hear that ramp up and ramp down. Where if you have 3 fans, even if they're 3-pin plugged into separate power headers, this fan may get less power than the 2 in the front. So this will spin slower, make less noise than the 2 ones in the front. Maybe the 2 ones in the front are pulling more air in. So you'll get less noise this way. You'll get a little less up and down noise. You won't get a full, like, you know, oh my God, my computer just sounds like it's going to take off kind of sound, instead of, you know, just, you know, slowly ramping up and down. All right, so let's get down to power connectors here. Yeah. Got CPU. Oh, I hate when they do this. Crisscross all the connectors. There we go. All right, so CPU comes with actually labeled CPU. So make sure that this is the one that goes down to the motherboard. The CPU and the PCI-Express look very similar. Put them side by side, they look very similar, except the fact that PCI-Express does have a little 2-pin connector pop-off. This is for your graphic card, the one that says PCI-Express. CPU is the one for the motherboard. So I'm going to plug the one for the motherboard. Does it matter which one you connect? Not really. I'm going to connect this one just because it's closer in the line. Does it really matter? Not really, because unless your motherboard has a 16-pin connector, which it doesn't have, this has only got a regular 8. So it's only going to connect one side of these. And to line these up, there's a little notch here. This notch is going to go over, sorry, this clip is going to go over the notch that's on the actual connector. So you're going to slip it in and it should click in place. And if I make this correctly, let's go with it. Let's see if that's the right way. Yep, got it. And you should hear it click in place, and you should be able to pull up on it a little bit. If it doesn't come out, then you know you've got it clicked in place. Pull a little bit. Don't go Hulk arming this thing. Just, you know, slight pull. Power for the motherboard. You're just going to plug in the power. This is 26-pin, straight up 26-pin. You're just going to plug that straight into the 26-pin. Again, the same thing. Clip is up here. It's going to click into the motherboard, onto the notch. Should be that way. I'm going to hide some of these cables shortly. And we got a lot of other cables. So all of these other cables, we're not going to be really utilizing in this build. But just to go over some of them, just really quickly, this is a SATA connection cable. We have a lot of those. It's flat. It has a key on one side. There's a little notch here for the one side key. That key's up to the device you're plugging in. PCI-Express, which is for your graphic card. You have 6-pin, and then you also have 8-pin. Also, you have double 8-pin if you need more power to that, you know, to that graphic card. This is not a newer power supply. It's missing the one for the NVIDIA connector. There's one for the NVIDIA connector that is a, well, it's a controversial connector because the connector itself is kind of like crappy, but someone says, hey, is there fans Molex or 3/4 pin? Yes, they have Molex connectors. These are on here as well. That's 4 of those. These are not, the fans themselves are, the fans inside the case are 3-pin regular, like, you know, down to the motherboard kind of connectors, not like this. You only connect these are older fans. Like these are for older fans or older devices or Molex. Or if you have old lighting, sometimes they have that. So we're not going to use any of these. We're just going to put these off to the side. We're not going to utilize any of this stuff. We're just going to kind of organize this a little better. But yeah, the case fans though are 3-pin to the motherboard. So like the 3-pin regular standard fan connectors. You could also use that with a a fan hub if you want or whatever, if you so desire. Why is this so tangled? I don't know. All right, let's pull this out this way. That's tangled into that, and then let's get this out of all the rest of these cables, which don't belong. I don't know why they did this. Let's go that way. There we go. Maybe I did this when I unplugged it, who knows? Well, when I took it out of the thing. All right, there we go. All right, so that's a little better, a little more separated. All right, we're gonna take all of this junk and kind of push it together here, ravel it so it looks nicely. And then we're gonna just take some ties, tie this out of the way. Oh, you were referencing the case fans. Okay, cool. Yeah. They are daisy chainable. They do have. Let me see if I can grab one. Yeah, here. So they do have an in and an out. You can daisy chain them together, and then put one connector to the board if you want. I don't like this option. I like to just kind of separate them and plug them directly in. Like I said before, I like to kind of separate them. Just for power reasons and for airflow, and not airflow really, but more power reasons, not so noisy, because then you don't have a full ramp up on the speed of all the fans. They're not 4-pin though. I wish they were 4-pin, but you kind of, the cost for this case is really cheap, so I was not expecting 4-pin. So, but at least we got fans, and they're 3-pin. They're still not bad. They're not as bad as Molex. Molex connectors are always on 100%, so that's never a good thing. Let me just tighten this down. I'm just gonna cut the little tails off. Okay. Here, garbage. Okay. All right. This is gonna go. I'm gonna tuck this in at the top. Just keep it out of the way for now. I'm not gonna tie it up there yet until I get a little more structured cabling here. I really hate all this, all this cable is just everywhere. So I'm gonna probably tie all this up to the top and out of the way. At this point, we don't really need anything else, so except for the front panel connectors and some more fan pop-ups. But for the power supply, this is all that's really needed. I'm gonna tie a lot of this. I know I'm using a lot more ties than I need to use. If any of my technicians that work with me are in the chat, you guys know how many like cable ties I use. I use like a ton, and everybody hates me for it. But at the end of the day, they are easy to clean when the fan cables are out of the way. So, or it just looks a lot neater too. So, another cable tie here. I'm gonna probably need a whole nother box of cable ties. All right, so let's get this tied up. Let's get this slanted this way. Wow, this is just all separated. Don't like how this goes, so we're just going to do a little bit of cable tie magic here. Okay, so yeah, how's the cable management on the case? Is there space behind the motherboard? There's a little bit of space behind them. There's not much. Yeah, there's a little bit of space here. There's like a little bit of a cutout at the bottom, like on this side to the front of the case. There are some, like a deep cutout for some more cable management, but it's also where you put SSD drives. So since this is a NAS server and I'm not too concerned with cable management, I'm probably just going to push everything up to the top here on this side of the case. if you're building this case for your own and you know you're not going to use any SSDs, then you got plenty of room on the right side to put it behind. So you could go behind if you want. I'm not going the behind method because I need those SSD slots just in case if they need to add more SSDs in the future, which they probably will because it's a NAS machine, so you know they're going to run out of space and they're going to need more. So I'm going to do a crazy tie here and just tie all this. Damn it, ran out of ties. Okay, well, let me grab some more ties. I'm going to need more ties. Where are my ties? All right, I got some white ones. It's fine. Clear white ones, whatever. We got something. All right. Yeah, we're gonna have to like combine a bunch of these. These are the smaller ones. That's all right. Make it work. But yes, there's cable management behind the motherboard if you want to use that. I'm not using it in this case because you would have to block the SSDs. So, short version of that. Get this all tied up here. One big mound of cable mess. Come on. My finger. Do not get my finger. Oh. Turn. There we go. All right. So I'm just combining some ties because I don't have longer ones, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. Again, this is not a window build. If it's a window build, I would have spent a lot more time. I would have probably figured out a way to get it behind the board if it had a window. Just because then customers can see what all this is and they want a little bit more cleaner build look. That's what I usually go with. But for this aspect, it doesn't really matter too much. This is really just for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that up there. I'm going to turn the case around and we're going to get that tied up there to the top portion, which is always fun. So yeah, so back here, this is what you were interested in, by the way. So there is some room back here. There is a little piece that actually pops this out a little bit, but there's also a little bit of room here, down here that slides down. They do have some ties here for you if you want to use those. I'm just not using this because I need the access to the SSDs just in case they want to add some later. Because that's happened before. We build the whole system, customer runs out of space, they want to add more SSDs. We put an SSD here, and then now we have to cut all the cables and rearrange everything. So I'm trying to keep it very simple. I gotta do all the front panel connectors still. I gotta do the fan connectors also, which by the way, the fan connectors do have daisy chained. They are daisy chained in the front. So I'm gonna unplug those, plug those straight in. And, oh, I can't reach it from this. I can't reach it from this side. What am I, like, super stretch man here? That was the way. All right, so let's plug this here. Let's get this. Maybe I have to reach around here this way. Okay. Reach this up here. There we go. Not the best solution for this. What am I doing? Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. I gotta get around the cable. Yeah. Get in there. Come on. No, that's too short. Okay. It's too short. I need another one on there. Yeah, it's too short. I should have got longer ties, but it's okay. Like, again, this is not visible by most people, so we're not going to go crazy on this, but I do want to get the tie in the right spot. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, there we go. All right, I got it tied up. I just got to get it tied into the last piece. It's always the shortest end. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right, guys, this is pain, but I made this a lot more complicated than it needed to be. This could have been easier. Probably if I just lifted the case up and just did both sides of the case out at the same time, I could easily see what I'm doing. Anyways, that's tied. So we can just cut this, cut that, cut the other one down below. There we go. All right. So now we got a whole bunch of stuff I still need to plug in. Most of this is down below towards the board. I don't like where the holes are positioned on this. They're kind of in weird spots. Maybe they did this for like bigger boards to fit in, I don't know. Or they just did this just to drive me nuts, could be either one. It's all right though. It's just not great. So let's tie up some of this stuff so that we're not so loose, that's all over the place. Let's just tie up the thin front panel connectors. So we have one continuous stream here. Cables. Okay. I like to try to make things that connect together or connect close to the other on the board. I'll tie those together, but I won't tie everything together. The reason for that is because if you tie everything together, if you have to take something out, it becomes a little bit of a hassle. So that's why I like to separate it just a little bit. The power connectors I don't really separate that much because all the time if you need a power connector, you're gonna probably take the whole bunch down anyway to find what you want. Fan connectors. Okay, so we got to figure out where we need to put these through the holes. So we're going to lift everything up. I'm going to lift the case up, and I'm just going to do a little bit of back and forth here. Let's see where everything goes. Yeah. So power. Ow. This one goes here. Sorry guys, I know this is not very exciting, this look, but I will show you guys the finished, where I'm just basically picking out which holes to put things through so that we're on the proper path here. Audio ones are probably on the bottom, yeah. Audio and USB. Audio. If you go back to the beginning of this video, you'll have a spot to see on the motherboard what I'm talking about, where these go. It's almost impossible to see anyway, if I even had this straight up. There is no hole for this thing, so I'm going to go for the front panel connectors. I'm going to go a little bit across the board, which I don't like doing, but it's better than going the other way. So I'll pull those out, and for fans, I've only got one connector left. So that's okay, we can daisy chain the front ones, I guess, since we have no choice. And that's going to go down to the bottom hole. And that's going to connect into the fan connector on the bottom. So, unless I'm missing something, which I probably am, let me put this back down. I'm going to tie up some more very shortly, but to give you guys an idea what's going on here, maybe we can bring this up further. Okay. So, down below here, you got your USB, fan connector, audio. Your front panel connectors are over here. I'm going to plug those in right now. And that all comes up from the bottom. USB 3.1 is coming up through here, through this side panel. And that's pretty clean. I mean, it's not the best in the world. I wish there was a little more room in the back, just so I can put more cables in the back instead of pushing them through onto this side. But you know, it's not bad. It's just not great. That's why it's not sitting level on the table either. It's kind of bouncing back and forth. HDD, lights, power, HDD. Here we go. Positive, negative. So I'm just gonna plug that straight in. Reset. 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 LED switch. All right. Well, I'm gonna say that's reset. Okay. Power switch. And power LED. Power LED, of course, is separated, which is annoying. And pop those in. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these cables and try to pull them back to the other side and try to tie them up as much as I possibly can. So on this side, we got a lot of loose cable all over the place. So I'm just going to pull these up, pull these back. I'm going to avoid the screw holes so we can slip a drive underneath there if we need to. This is a little annoying. There's a hopefully I'm not knocking anything off the table. The daisy chain piece here is like really thick. So I'm going to push this through onto that side because there's not enough room here. And then, because this one spot is kind of tight, I'm just going to tie that here, tie this there. And that should give me enough clearance, hopefully. If not, what you can also do is you can kind of slide these around, get them to be a little more flat instead of more circular. That'll also give you a little bit more room. This is not the best cable, I'll be honest, this is not the best cable management computer I've seen in my life. This is kind of meh for what it is, so it's not bad, it's just not the best either. It's not great. So get these all tied up here. This side seems to be no issue, a little bit thicker on this side. For the amount of room that you have a little more room to play here. But down here could have been better. I don't know why they didn't just make a flat piece here. They made like a level up edge piece. Maybe they're trying to do something with like a stamp out. Honestly, this is a mistake. I think that should have been further out the other way. Because now you got this piece here holding the, you know, the case in. It's kind of stupid. The case covers also do have a little beveled edge, so they're beveled out. So that does give you a little more room for the back. So when I put these on, it shouldn't really fight me too much, I hope. I've been wrong before. Let's put this on, yeah, tie this up a little more. Just to get it nice and tight. I also don't like this, so I'm gonna just kind of tie that right there, just so it's out of the way. Okay. Okay. All right. I used way too many cable ties than I probably should have. Whatever. This is fine that way. Push that over that way. Yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with that. All right. Let's flip this back up. All right. So a little word about fan clearance here, which I like and I don't like about this case. There's a little bit of what I like and I don't like. This is the only breathable area on the left and the right side is this breathable area. The fans are set in a little bit so that the fan can pull air from this. The front panel is flat and there's no mesh. So most of the dust is going to probably accumulate right here and the opposite side. There's nothing really wrong with that, except for the fact that there's not a lot of airflow between the front part of the case, the fan, and the where it mounts. Now there is an option here that we can do, which is if you're not going to use this bottom thing, which is bottom drive tray, you can take this bottom drive tray out, move the fans forward, or more, not forward, but back into the case. If you move these back into the back of the case a little bit, you'll have a little more airflow for the front. So I'd probably do that if you're not going to use these. I don't know if the customer's going to use these, so we might leave this for now, but I might change my mind before I deliver it. I might actually take this out and move those back if they're really loud. So we're going to see how loud they are. If they're really loud and they're really obnoxious, then we'll move them back a little bit so the airflow is a little bit better. We're not going to close the case because we have a little rule around here. That rule is we do not close the case until we make sure it boots for the first time, because we all know that if we don't abide by this rule, we will have a very bad day. It will probably not boot. So we are not going to close it right away. I'm just going to put one more cable tie. I found a wire that was a little loose. Is this overkill? Yes, definitely overkill at this point. We do not need this many cable ties. This one fan cable is driving me nuts. You know what? Forget it. It's fine. Okay, so we're going to try to boot right now. Going to hook up the system. I need a keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse. All right. Simple keyboard and mouse, nothing fancy. All right, it's a fancy keyboard, but it doesn't need to be. Over there. All right. Just basically hooking up keyboard, mouse. That's all we're going to really hook up: keyboard, mouse, and monitor, just so we can see what's going on. We also need to do a BIOS, and we need to do a. We also need to load the operating system. We're going to have to make the flash drive because I did not make the flash drive, and I did that on purpose. It's not just because I forgot. It's because I literally did that on purpose so we can go through it and show you guys how to make a flash drive for TrueNAS. I think we already have a video about how we do it with Windows. Pretty sure if we don't have one on the website, on YouTube, I mean, someone let me know because we really should add that. All right, so I'm just plugging in HDMI, simple things, nothing very fancy here, just regular plugins. To the back of the board, we're plugging into a motherboard, of course, because we do not have a graphic card. If you have a graphic card, you would plug it into there. Power cord. All right. Let me arrange this a little bit. All right. Cable ties make it look great. Yes, sometimes. And sometimes I do too many and it's not maintainable, and then everybody yells at me that I've made it more complicated. So, all right, let's power this thing on. Okay, nothing's smoked yet, so we're good. Let's put it onto the camera and switch it over to me in the corner there. There we go, that's really horrible. All right, hopefully we'll boot. Power on. Oh, did I do something stupid? I can't see. All right. Well, let's see. Let me turn it a little bit. I have this really the wrong direction. Ah, there we go. Okay. Sometimes it takes a minute. Intel is a little faster than AMD. AMD is very slow to boot for the first time. You're going to have a lot of memory training and some other issues, so that's always going to be the case. All right, so CPU installed. Let me make this bigger so I can read what the hell I'm doing. Okay, so it says a new CPU is installed. Before making any changes, please go to the BIOS. Sure. You got to push F1. So it always goes to this stupid screen. which is basically like the simplest screen. If you want, you could stay here and do whatever you need to do. I am not going to make any changes yet because what we want to do is we want to create a flash drive with the BIOS on it, and we're also going to create a flash drive with the operating system. So, booting operating system. So it's going to, well, the installer, I should say, not really the operating system. We're also going to turn XMP on because this memory does support XMP to get the most amount of speed out of it. So let's switch over to the other computer. Let's make a USB flash drive. It may take a few minutes, but it's worth it to show how it's done. Let me get a flash drive, first of all. That would be helpful. So bear with me for 1 second. Let me get a flash drive. Oh. Let's get a flash drive. Flash drive. Doesn't matter. A bit better flash drive. Okay. You can use any flash drive. I just got a big flash drive. It's fine. Doesn't matter what flash drive you go with. Plug it into this unit, and let me just quickly check to make sure there's nothing on it. Probably nothing on it. Bear with me for 1 moment while I look at that, make sure I got a good flash drive that I can erase. Yeah, let me just stitch all this. Oops, that's not the right keyboard. Would help if I used the right keyboard. Okay. Shift delete. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. Well, let me prep this flash drive. I'll show you guys how to do it. Yes, delete. Okay. All right. So let me switch over to that screen, which is 3. No, none. All right. So I have an empty drive, nothing on it. Very exciting, I know. All right, so let's open up. Let's get the BIOS first. So we're gonna get. Let's turn that off. Like that. All right, let's not confuse things. Let's go to Google and let's look up ASUS. What is this? This motherboard is a mouthful, so I'm just going to copy off the box. It is a ASUS B760 M-AYM Wi-Fi D42, which is 2 I's, which is weird. Okay, no, we're not buying it. That's another one. Whatever. Support. And we're going to go over to drivers and tools, BIOS and firmware. Eventually, there it goes. And we want the newest BIOS, so we're going to need 1820, which I guess is the newest. Let me take a look at the other one. The other one is version 0401. What the hell? Okay, so that's way off. Let's download this one. Let's get the newest. All right. Once we have that open, we're just going to open up this. Close that. I don't need that. So what comes in here is just basically 2 files. We're going to take these 2 files, throw them over here. We're going to do BIOS renamer because it needs to rename that BIOS to the proper name. It's going to open up this stupid thing. Okay, and I'm hitting the wrong keyboard, of course. There we go. So it renames that file to that proper name. So we're ready to go. So we're going to take that file over to the new system. Going to switch screens. What the hell? No, I don't need that. All right. And we should probably use the plug in the back, which I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm skipping my own steps. You never try to use the one in the front. The reason why the one in the front is not a good idea is because the one in the front may or may not be connected correctly or may have some other problems. You don't want to disconnect during the transfer process of the BIOS. That would be a very bad thing to do. You will then have to use like recovery methods, which are a lot more difficult to get that's if your motherboard even supports recovery methods to get it back. Where in the world? Oh, let's go to advanced mode because, you know. All right. I think it's tool. Yeah, ASUS Easy. You want to go over to tool, then you want to go to ASUS Easy Flash 3 utility. And you're going to select the drive that I put in there. Really? Not there, huh? This happens. Let me reboot first because I did plug that in afterwards. Sometimes it doesn't show up. Sometimes I have to reformat the drive correctly to FAT32. Sometimes it doesn't like NTFS. That's happened. Come on, there we go. All right, so let's go back again. I don't know why you can't get to it from here. Tool, Flash utility. Yeah, it's not finding it. Okay, so this happens once in a while. If it does, it's fine. Unplug the flash drive, you gotta have to start over again. And it should do FAT32. So to do that, let's drop back over. Put myself back on there. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to open up disk management. Oh. Why is this drive encrypted? I don't know. That's the reason why I can't find it. Anyway, I don't know why that drive's encrypted. So I'm going to delete that. Okay, when I create a new simple volume, we're going to keep it down to 1 gig. No, it's wrong. Wrong keyboard. 1 gig. Next, D is whatever. Now, the file format, we're going to choose FAT32. If you keep it on 1 gig, it's going to allow you to do FAT32. It should be no problem. Auxiliary B1. Oops, B1. Can't type. Format, quick format, sure, because we don't want to be sitting here all day. There we go. Now you got a 1 gig format. We're going to go back and copy those files over again. If I didn't delete them. Downloads. I don't need that. We do need the... Oh, I keep hitting the wrong keyboard. That's why it's not working. All right, D drive, and we just bring these over again. Just do the same process. Gonna do BIOS rename again. Gonna hit the enter key on that. It's gonna rename. And we'll try this again. All right. Let's go back over to the other units. Too many keyboards and mice over here. All right. Plug it back into the back again. Try to find this stupid USB here. Yeah, that's in there. There we go. Now it finds it. All right. So non-encrypted would help, right? All right. So then we're going on to this one here. This is the cap file. Please back up your BitLocker. We're not using that. Hit yes. You want to read the file? Sure. It looks correct. We're going to go to 1820 something, which is a lot higher. All right, so it's going to take about a minute or two. Just relax, sit back, wait for it to update. At this point, before you actually do any of this stuff with the BIOS update, just a thought, you should be on stable connections. Make sure that you are on something like a UPS battery or something like that so you don't lose power. You do not want to lose power right when I'm just doing this. If you lose power, you will brick the motherboard. And if your motherboard doesn't support flashback or doesn't have QFlash Plus, you will not be able to reflash it. It will not turn on, it will not boot up. You will have a very bad day. You might have to return that motherboard. So whenever you update the BIOS, just be very careful and be sure that you're on good, stable power. Don't do this during a lightning storm, or if you're on the same circuit as, let's say, an AC unit or something. That's a very bad idea. Or a fridge or something that draws a lot of power. It may pop that circuit, during that time. So just be sure that you're on a good circuit, you're on something very stable, or at least on a UPS battery. So if you do lose power, it'll trip over to the UPS, and at least can finish out the process. It shouldn't take longer than your UPS will drain, unless your UPS is a real piece of junk. Then therefore, you may still have a problem, but at least you'll know about it. All right, takes a minute. What we're also going to do is we're going to make the flash drive for booting TrueNAS. So we're going to go to TrueNAS's website, download it, the Community Edition. We're going to show loading the Community Edition. If you're in a production environment, I do recommend purchasing the full version if you can purchase the full version, or maybe purchase a full hardware piece that's actually specific. If you really don't want to do a whole build and stuff, they also offer pre-made units and stuff like that, if you don't want to have to go through the whole build process. All right, so we're going to go back into the BIOS really quick when it decides to reboot. There we go. Okay, so it's going to say there's something wrong. Obviously, this is just basically saying, hey, there was adjustments to the BIOS, things were reset. It says to basically go into F1 to go into the BIOS and set up everything that you're supposed to set up. So it does refresh all the settings. It refreshes your fan curves. It refreshes everything. So what you want to do is you want to turn on XMP at this point. Make sure that's the correct thing. Make sure that you're also on the newest BIOS, which was written somewhere here. There it is, 1820. So we are on the current one. That's really all that I really change in here, except for the fact that since we're doing TrueNAS, we don't need audio. We don't need a few other things on either. The Q fan control, I also sometimes make changes to. I'm not going to do that today because it sounds pretty quiet as it is. But what I'm going to probably do is I have to close up the case to do a full test on how loud or not loud the case is going to be. Right now, it's not that loud. It's actually running pretty. They're all running right now. They're running. They're running pretty quiet. So let's see. What else do I want to change? I want to turn off. Where are you? Most of the time I turn off sound because there's really no need for sound. If I can find it. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not going to affect performance or anything. Just want to make sure we got everything else. The ASUS driver hub, you want to turn that garbage off also. It doesn't affect anything unless you're in Windows, really. It will show like that stupid like install ASUS driver tools if you're in Windows. If you're in TrueNAS, it ignores this field, so you don't have to worry about it. But I like to keep it off anyway, just to kind of keep things the same. Save changes, let's go. Let's reboot. Okay, so let me go back to the BIOS for a moment because I want to leave it at the BIOS screen, and then we're going to make the new flash drive. Which I got to grab that flash drive. So I'm just going to erase what's on here. Let me just get back to the BIOS. Yeah, get in there. Okay. BIOS. Okay. I'm going to leave this at the BIOS for a minute. Let's jump back to the other machine. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go to TrueNAS's website. TrueNAS. Why can't I spell? annoying. All right, TrueNAS.com. They move this thing around all the time, so it kind of makes me annoyed, but is it? Maybe it's TrueNAS or TrueNAS doesn't work. Maybe it's not work. This doesn't look right, so. Ah, work. Nope, same menus. All right. I'm just going crazy. Ah, Community Edition, there it is. So TrueNAS Community Edition is what you want. If you have an enterprise unit, like if you go buy one of these high-end units, you can just buy, you can just go into Enterprise and download that. We're gonna do Community Edition for now. You can download. We're going to accept all the cookies, because why not? What else? We're not gonna sign up, we're just say we already signed up. We already are anyway. Version 25.04.2.4, that's the most current and stable. You do probably only want that. You probably don't want like a release candidate, but that's up to you. I like the stable one, it's fine. It's gonna download this, take like 2 minutes to download. It's not that big, it's only like 1.9 gigs. Let me also double check if we have Rufus, because we're gonna need Rufus. I have a lot of junk in here. Ugh, get rid of all this crap. No, I don't have Rufus in here. So while that's downloading, we're gonna go to Rufus. I'm gonna get Rufus. I spelled it wrong. Is it RUF? US. Oh, man. All right, there we go. So you get Rufus, just gonna use this. You could use any USB flash maker drive. You can use anything you want. I like Rufus, it's just easy, simple, it's nothing fancy. There's also like Blanch Eraser or something, Blancher or Blanch Eraser or something like that. That one's also pretty good. Gotta wait. I don't like waiting. All right. Okay. Almost there. 18 seconds, not too bad. This is the ISO. So when you're going to make the ISO, it's going to make the flash drive bootable. It's going to boot off and start installing TrueNAS. It will give you options. It should give you options on which drive you want to install to. We're going to install to the 500 gig drive. The 1 terabyte we're going to reformat in TrueNAS once we get it up and operational. Now, if you're using TrueNAS with spinning drives, or what we call spinning rust, I recommend that you end up using multiple drives so that you don't have to worry about failure as much, because mechanical drives, it's not about if it's going to fail, it's about when it's going to fail. So you want to always make sure to have some sort of like ZFS pool or something like that set up so you have multiple drives protecting itself. We're doing all flash drives, so I'm not too concerned. Also, the customer always has backup running constantly anyway. But if you're really concerned, you should have multiple drives, and you should have some sort of like ZFS pool, like in RAID 1. I say RAID 1, but a ZFS 1. So at least this way you have some sort of mirroring happening at that point. All right, so we created the drive. If you notice, what I just did was I just dragged the ISO over to Rufus. I chose the D drive, which is what I'm, my flash drive. And it may be different letters on yours. Just make sure you're choosing the flash drive that you want. Let's close this, close that, and let's switch back over to here. I'm going to put this on the flash drive. I'm going to put into this computer on one of the flash ports. Make sure it's on USB 3.1. Hopefully. Okay. All right. So we're ready to now boot off the flash drive. So we're going to switch on boot. Switch all boot. No, that's not happening. Let's go to advanced. I hate this. Simple menus sometimes are too simple for me. Let's go to boot. Boot configuration, that's probably fine. Yeah, that's fine. No. I might have to reboot because I just plugged the drive in. So save changes, reset again. Let me go back to the BIOS to make sure that the boot drive is set to boot off that flash drive. Freaking, I should really change this to always advanced. All right, boot. There we go. So now it's showing up with my drive. We're going to boot off of that. So we're going to exit. We don't need to save. We're going to now boot off that flash drive. And of course, I forgot that I let secure boot on. All right, so I have to go to setup, boot, secure boot, OS type. God, I hate this. All right, so this is one of those things where it's stupid. F3. So you have to turn off, you have to say like booting off a flash drive, because with secure boot on, you can't go booting off flash drives and stuff. So standard, other OS. Dude, I chose, it must be default to Windows, which makes sense. I mean, most people are loading Windows. Yeah, standard is fine. Let's go here. Let's do that. Just change that. Should allow me to do it after this. It's basically to protect you from like overwriting your operating system with something that shouldn't be overwriting. It also helps you protect the system from other BIOSes and other infections and stuff like that. I hate when it does this. This happens once in a while. I think it's because we're not on the right booting type. I think it uses CSM, not UEFI, which is kind of annoying. It's actually very annoying. Boot compatibility mode. We'll turn off fast boot for right now. Let's switch this to advanced mode. I'm going to turn off secure boot. Actually, no, standard is fine. What am I doing? All right, let me go back. These settings, man, they make my life a living hell. Oh, there's that HD audio. I want to turn that off. Anyway, Wi-Fi controller we'll leave on. Bluetooth controller we gotta turn off. No need. QLED, serial port. We don't have a serial port. Storage driver. I hate that every BIOS has got to be totally different. It drives me absolutely nuts. Auto. Yeah. I don't know if this is. See, it still says UEFI. I need the CSM. Ugh, I hate this. All right, let's save changes and exit. Let's see what happens. It doesn't want to do it this way. All right, I have to turn on CSM to get this to boot. It doesn't like UEFI. There's probably a better way to do this. I just don't know of it. This is all the advanced stuff. I will find it. That's a VMD controller. No. 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 What's this? It's not allowing me to turn this on. Should. So it must be something in ASUS's BIOS that I'm not 100% sure about. Why isn't this here? I must be passing it. Temperature, probably. You know what? Maybe I should just look it up. Let's look it up. Because, you know, why waste time? I don't know where it is. Let's try looking it up. Okay. ASUS turn on ASUS BIOS. Turn on CSN. Advanced mode. Boot menu. Yeah, see, it's not there though. Oh, wait. Grayed out. Oh, that's great. Secure boot off. Yeah. Yeah, it should be there. So I probably have to turn off secure boot, I feel like. It's secure boot. Kind of figured. Stupid option. Alright. Where is it in here or not? Let's see. Probably UEFI. That's off. Trust the computering. So we want the TPM on, but we don't want secure boot on. You know, they probably buried this in a spot that I really will never find. UEFI variable. Like the only thing that says UEFI. ASPM. I don't know. Why did they have to change the names of these things? I wish they didn't do that. Either that or maybe I'm out of touch here with this. Oh, all right. Where are you? Reboot letter IO and then U. Let's turn this off. Oh. Secure boot. Why doesn't it allow me to change that? That's a great. Great trick. we gotta turn off. Alright, VDM had nothing to do with it. AMD, I mean. Why do I feel like VDT? Is it actually in a main security? No. I feel stupid. Why are we not on? All right. Let's see. I must be missing something. Let me go back to why CSM is missing. Yeah, it's even grayed out here, though. It's not telling you how to turn it on. Alright, so we need to know how to disable secure boot. That's the problem. ASUS BIOS. Disable. Oops. Disable secure boot. I'm not the only one. Okay. Security tab. Security tab. What? There's no security tab. I'm going to find this. Secure arrays. No. No. Security tab. You keep saying security tab. I don't see security tab here. I'm blind? I must be blind. Security settings. No, this is password. Wow. Let's turn off TPM. If we turn off TPM, it should not allow it anyway. And we'll just get it booted and then we'll turn it back on. Maybe that's a better way to go. Yeah, it's like not letting me do this. Try one more time. Let's see. If it doesn't go, then we're gonna have to figure out a different method of loading it. I don't know why UEFI is not working. TrueNAS usually does boot off the drive with no issue. Maybe it's like F12 or something. Whatever files this stuff. Nope. Nope, does not want to do that. It wants CSM. All right, well, maybe we might have to do a follow-up video of how to load CSM on here and figure that out, because that's ridiculous. It's disabled. I'll turn off that. No. Let's turn that off and then reboot again. And then see if it actually enables CSM after turning off the TPM. Because TPM and secure boot usually go together, kind of. It's not 100%, but majority of the time. No. Still didn't let me go into it. Oops. Shoot. Let's see. APM, no, no, nope. SATA controllers, they're all on. It's normal. Turn this off. Oh, we have too much memory here. 32 is fine. Probably display auto. UTD. Oh. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. All right. Let's try and see if we can reset again. And let's try also seeing if we can try to find where we're at. Might have to call it soon. If I can't get this going, then we'll just have to do a follow-up video on how to do TrueNAS with this. And I'm probably going to go through that setting because I'm going to find it. It's gonna be worth yeah, it's something deep in here that's messed up. All right, guys. Anyways, I tried. System's booted. Case is loaded. I just got to get TrueNAS loaded. We'll do another video about TrueNAS because honestly, there's a lot of other stuff to go over as well. So I'll do some recordings for that. And I'll fix the BIOS so that we let people know how to get into CSM. And if it's this BIOS or another BIOS, we'll write down some information on how to do that. It's coming up in the future. Coming up in the future right now is basically we will be loading up TrueNAS on this unit as well as going over some TrueNAS videos. We'll have some stuff on the newer version. We had stuff on the older version. I'm going to redo the videos for the newer version because the newer version has changed a lot. A lot of the interface has changed, so we just basically ditched kind of the old version at this point going forward. There's some newer features that are great about TrueNAS for like storing your data, in large sets. I also want to kind of go over ZFS a little more and maybe some more complicated configurations. All right, guys, I'm going to cut the stream now at this point. I'll see you guys soon. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed because when we do have videos that do release, you'll get notifications. and we'll see you soon.